7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and you are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics. First and foremost, I got to give a shout out to Wizard World and their virtual experience. Thank you guys for hosting this You Create Comics presentation, brought to you live and direct from my studio space in Columbus, Ohio. This is my sanctuary, aka the VIP section, if you will. If you don't know, I am, again, the hardest working man in comics, Victor Dandridge, the mind behind Vantage In-House Productions, with some of the best comic books ever. Okay, let's just say it like that. I'm an indie self-publisher, have been doing so for nearly 10 years, producing some of the coolest books of all time. And in addition to that, I've also been the creator of You Create Comics, which is a program and product line designed to help you make your own comic book wonders. And I think we're going to get started on that today. We're going to invite you guys to create comics, to create characters of your very own. We want you to be in the driver's seat, because who knows, you might be the very next Stan Lee, the next Jack Kirby. It could be you. And we're going to help bring that out today, right now. That's what's about to happen. So if you've seen the link, you know that we have a free download worksheet for you to use, something that you can work through. This will be a truncated version of our Character Crafter workbook, which is this lovely piece right here. This 8-page little wonder dunder here is actually what started the entire You Create line. And it's been a phenomenal experience so far. We've actually partnered with Wizard World before and have actually traveled across the country. It's been phenomenal being able to share creativity with you guys, to be able to create characters with different folks all over the country. Absolutely amazing. And I was truly humbled when Wizard World asked if I could do it from home. So we're going to get started on that. I just want to make sure that I'm doing my watch party right now. I want to make sure other people are in here, and we got it. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so this is how we're going to do this. I am going to share my screen if I can. Let's see if I can do that. Maybe, there it is. And are you going to let me do it? Oh, it's not going to let me do it just yet. All right, so we'll switch gears just a little. And instead of a shared screen, I'm going to show you what this looks like in a workbook. So here we go. So we've got this character, the Raconteur. He is the first character that I created for this entire project. And he's got this long monologue. I mean, it's pretty big. You guys can see that it's quite hefty. And it kind of sets the stage for what the entire project is about. So I'm going to deliver this monologue, but the crazy part is I'm going to try to do it without actually reading it. I'm going to see if I can, literally just run this through. Okay. So I can't see it. I promise you I can't see it. But it says, "Behold, my creative companion. I am the Raconteur. I have traveled across the cosmos through planes both known and unknown in search of a new guardian for the majestic power of imagination. As it has been for all time, guardianship is successive and must be passed on to generations new, strengthening its fortitude and ensuring it will last for generations more. Finally, my quest has brought me to you. But know this, the power of imagination is not to be wielded lightly. For in the hands of the unprepared mind, the foulest and most cruel outcomes will emerge. So I ask, do you have the strength of clarity and will to master such force? Yes, you say? If it were only so easy. No, first you must pass this test. I will bequeath only a smidgen of imagination's power, and we shall see if thou art truly fit to wield its totality. On your ready, the test begins now." Boom, baby. Look, it wasn't even written on the back. That's right. I have that whole thing memorized. And the whole point of it is to get you set up to create your own character. It's to tell you a whole story. And that's really what comics are the best at, telling stories visually with literature, words, pictures, married together, being awesome comics. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have you creating your own very own comic book character from start to finish. Now, if you had a chance, I do hope that you downloaded the workbook sheet that we have here. This is a, like I said, truncated version of the the workbook. This is mine on my iPad, and I'll be using this as we continue through this entire conversation. But in order to really kind of get into it, to make sure that you are prepared, I want to make sure that there's some terms that you guys know, understand, can follow along with, that are very, very important. They're going to set the stage for us creating characters. And so that's the first and foremost piece of what we got to have. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is character paths. Protagonist, antagonist, right? So the protagonist is typically the main character of a story. Now, more often than not, that person is considered a good guy, and that's kind of how we're going to use it. Protagonist being the good guy. Very simple. The antagonist is the person or situational conflict that the protagonist has to overcome. Again, more often than not, that person is the bad guy, and that's how we're going to use that. So protagonist, good guy, antagonist, bad guy. Now, some of you guys, I'm sure, are Star Wars fans, right? And if ever we have a Star Wars story that's about the villains, technically those are protagonists. It's the way it works. But just for simplicity, ease of use, we're going to keep it, very simple. Protagonist good, antagonist bad. So let's just play around with that and keep that into your head of which one are you going to create? Either a good guy or a bad guy. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is method of acquisition. Sounds super complicated, but it's super duper easy. It's how do you get powers? In comics, I say there are only 5 ways for you to get superpowers: through science, biology, industry, mythology, and magic. Now, I've dipped into my own personal collection to grab some books that represent this idea. So, oh man, I like to read. I don't know if you guys like to read. I didn't always like to read, but these days I'm a big reader. So let's start it off with science. If your character gets their superpowers through either an accident or an experiment, that's a science-based character. Now, I'm curious, what sort of science-based characters do you guys know? Can you throw out a couple? I want to see some in the comments. Let's see some interaction. Let's see what you guys got. Now, I've got a couple here, and let's see if anybody grabs any of the ones that I've actually showcased. If you saw as I put the book spines up, you might have glanced at a couple, but there are some awesome ones out there. So, who are your science-based favorites? Can we get some Incredible Hulk? Absolutely, right? Captain America, gotta love Cap. The Flash, we actually have some Flash action right here. If you get a chance, definitely check out Flash Rebirth. This is an awesome book from DC Comics. Hit up your local comic shop, find out who's near you, and grab some coolness. If you watch the show, this is what it's all about. Barry Allen doing awesome stuff. We also could say Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, easily, right? Gotta love those. Those are classics. You can't go wrong with them. If you're going to say Spider-Man, I think one of my other favorites, personal favorites, you got to give some love to Daredevil. Check out this Daredevil Visionaries, Marvel Comics, right? I mean, this has got Kevin Smith, one of my favorite directors of all time, wrote this. This is so awesome. I love it when comics and movies kind of intermingle. But you got a character like Daredevil, Matt Murdock, who was blinded as a child, and instead of just totally being without vision, all of his other senses were ramped up to superhuman levels. Kind of amazing. Daredevil, there it is, right there. Now, I always like to add in, when I do these presentations, a little fun pop culture trivia. Now, we're going to move into some other things, but I really want you guys to remember Daredevil's origin story. Like I said, young kid, blinded, chemicals hit him in the face. We're going to talk about a way that maybe one day, not guaranteeing, but maybe one day, you might win $1 million. Who knows? You might. And it'll be all because of this comic book knowledge that you have. I'm just throwing it out there. All right, so moving on, we have biological. These are characters that are born that way. Now, if you look at, the human populace, we can do a lot of awesome things. We are pretty amazing. Let's keep that 100. The thing is, though, is that maybe there are some races out there in the universe that can do things that we can't do. So if it's a natural showcase of their abilities as species, that would mean that they are aliens. They're not from Earth, and their whole species can do something. That's definitely an alien-oriented idea. Or maybe they are human, but they have extra DNA that allows them to do something that we generally cannot. That makes them mutants. That's a mutation, right? So throwing out some ideas. Who do you guys have under biological? What are the alien races or characters that you know of in comics? What are the mutant characters that you know of in comics? I mean, there's plenty of them, lots and lots and lots. Let me see some answers in here. What do we got? We got some X-Men, Groot. Good job. Good job. I got to give a shout out to my man Damien, who's watching. Hey, buddy, how are you doing? Good to see you. Let's see. Do I have a favorite character? Actually, my favorite character does fit within this context. It's Black Bolt, King of the Inhumans. And somebody just said Inhumans. That's awesome. Thank you, John, because that's classic. Black Bolt is my favorite character and totally fits. Ooh, Mark, that's a really good one. Mark said Thor. Now, Thor is a little tricky. There are certain stories that if you read them, he definitely fits into this category, particularly Earth X is one of my favorite series of all time. They kind of play on the notion that the Asgardians are a form of aliens. You should totally read it. I don't want to spoil how that works, but it's awesome. But generally speaking, most people don't consider him an alien. They consider him in a different category, but those are still good ones. If you want to go into it, obviously, Superman, right? I mean, the godfather of all superheroes, the one who started it all, the big daddy here, Supes, the Kryptonians, all of them are amazing. From Superman, the Daxamites, you got Supergirl, you got Zod, all these awesome people. If you're into the Daxamites, you got Sodom Yat, Mon-El, all these cool characters. You could also say Martian Manhunter. You could say Starfire. Lots and lots of characters fit into that category. If you go on the mutant side, pretty much all of the X-Men, right? So you got my man Wolverine. You got the X-Men. Again, these are some classic versions, some classic books here. This one, Enemy of the State, Mark Miller. One of my favorite books of all time. This is so cool. It's like Wolverine versus the Marvel Universe. Check that out. It's so awesome. And this one is the Joss Whedon written Astonishing X-Men. Again, movies, comics coming together. Amazing. Absolutely cool. Oh, Doctor Who. Absolutely. You got to count the Doctor in there, man. Like Gallifrey it's an alien, race right there. Like that's what they are. So you got to count them. Keep that into the context. All these different cool things that you love and enjoy definitely fit. Now, remember what I said about possibly winning $1 million? One of the characters that we did not say that you would think maybe fits into this category because it's in their name would be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But you'd be wrong. The Turtles are not in fact mutants. Though it is in their name and it's a cool name, always has been, they are not in fact mutants by this definition. What happened was they are just like Daredevil. That's the secret sauce. That is the secret Marvel Comics character's origin story that ties into the origin of the Turtles. So if you were ever offered $1 million by somebody saying what Marvel Comics character's origin influenced the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's Daredevil. Remember that. Daredevil. Now, you want to know how? I'll explain it. So we have young Matt Murdock, 12 years old, sees an old gentleman who can't see, who is blind, needing to cross the street. He also notices that a chemical truck is barreling down the road. It is at risk of hitting the old man. Matt, being selfless, rushes out there and pushes the old man out of the way. When he does so, the truck sees him, swerves, and though he misses them, chemicals splash out the back. Some of those chemicals splash on Matt's face, takes out his vision, but amps up his other senses. The old man that Matt saved, when he pushed him out of the way, there was a little boy holding a thing of turtles, and the old man hits the young boy, and the boy drops the turtles, and the turtles fall into the sewer, along with some of the splash chemicals. And it falls on the turtles, and they transform into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as we know them. So that's the cool thing about how cool comics can be, is not only can they just be cool entities of themselves, they can actually reference other cool comics, which is fantastic. In fact, if you go back and you find out that they were actually doing a commentary on how dark comics had gotten by doing the Turtles. So there's a lot of cool educational things that you can see just by simply reading comics, as well as supporting You Create Comics, but we'll talk about that a little later. The next category, industrial. These are characters that build some sort of tools or device or use gadgets in order to fight or commit crime, right? So let's see, who do we have on that one? Who do you guys think uses gadgets as a regular weapon source when they're fighting or committing crimes? What do you guys got? Let's see it. What do you got? Let's see some options here. Can we say Black Widow? Yeah. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What about Green Arrow? Absolutely. Any others? I mean, you could go Dr. Doom. His suit definitely allows him to do that. Those are all good ones. Absolutely. Joker, Catwoman, Batgirl. If you say Batgirl, you got to include Batman. Check out one of my favorite runs on Batman. Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo. This is Court of Owls. This is one of the coolest things ever. When you find out like all these hidden stuff about Gotham and the makings of the Batman universe. So super cool. Jason said Green Lantern. Jason, shout out to you on that one. That is a very, very awesome answer because most people think it's got to be biological. because of the alien basis of the Guardians. But no, it's actually a tool. It's technology that they're using, and most people get that wrong. So Jason, good job. Absolutely good job. I think I saw Iron Man in there, and also I'm going to throw in Hawkeye. Again, these are characters that might not be super powered on their own, but through their use of devices and things like that, they have awesome abilities. They save the day. They save the universe. I mean, they're superheroes. Don't get it twisted. That's exactly what they are. I saw War Machine in there, Batgirl, absolutely, Robin, Nightwing. So many different characters fit that motif. Ironheart, Shuri, all industrial. So if they are using any sort of tool or gadget, that makes them industrial. The next category, we're going to talk about mythological. Now, these are characters that are considered gods or imbued with powers by the gods. Now, there are quite a few of those characters that are running through all of comics. We have a huge love of godlike characters, godlike beings. Let's see what you guys got on the mythological characters. Let's go. Let's see what we got. Let's see how many different places we can go. And I want to see a mix of things. DC, Marvel, Beyond. What do y'all got? Let's see it. I love it. People typing. Aquaman. Aquaman's an interesting choice. I think Aquaman has become godlike in his nature, but I would definitely have said that he's biological because he's got that, human Atlantean, biological mix. Thor, 100%, Damien. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Thor, you got to love it. This is one of my favorite runs here. Jason Aaron starts off with the God Butcher. It's kind of heavy, but still kind of fun. Very awesome. Definitely love it. I see Wonder Woman in there. Flash. Flash is an interesting one. Again, as his power levels grow, definitely has gotten to that level. Thanos. Well done. I like it. Thanos should be on everyone's heart and minds these days. Excuse me. I'm still living in post-in-game action. Like, that was still one of the most phenomenal things that I've ever experienced. Galactus. Yes. 100% Galactus. Can I get some love for Darkseid up in there? Got to get some love for Darkseid. The New Gods, Jack Kirby's creations are so awesome in that way. You got to give him some love. Again, Wonder Woman. I give a shout out to Second Genesis, one of my favorite books. John Byrne did this one. Very awesome. And again, you see she's got Darkseid up in here. So it's her handling things. Let's see. We got Son of Satan. Son of Satan actually put into a different category, and we'll explain that one in just a second. So no worries there. But the other thing is that it's not always about power level, which I think is very interesting. So a character like Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a very street level character, very reminiscent to Batman. But the story, Mark Spector died. He was a mercenary, but gets resurrected by the Egyptian moon god Khonshu and is given new life. In some aspects, he's got some powers. Most of the time, he's not. Most of the time, he's more of a street level guy. So even though he's not super duper powerful, the fact that he was given this new presentation of life definitely makes him a mythological-esque character. Q from Star Trek. Listen, don't say that name too many times, because the last thing I need is for Q to show up. Q was the most mischievous person. Like, Loki could learn a lot from Q. Q was just deadly with the things that he would kick out there and have Picard and everybody have to do. And also, I got to give a shout out to the Silver Surfer reference, because absolutely anyone who is given the power cosmic, certainly by a character like Galactus, has got to be considered mythological in their presentation. I would also say the Phoenix Force definitely counts as that power level. And there are some stories that suggest that Superman even gets to a godlike level. So 100% good job, guys. I like that. The last category is magic. So these are characters that are imbued with some sort of arcane or occult essence, or use enchantments, whether that's clothing, objects, artifacts, anything like that, that are using spells, things like that. That is magic. Yes, Ghost Rider, 100%. That's where I would put the Son of Satan in there. Lots of characters. Spawn, I would definitely put in there. Dr. Fate, Zatanna, Harry Potter. I would definitely. Shazam, that's a great one. Shazam definitely goes into that category. Though I would also put him in the mythologicals, because obviously his power sets fit godlike statements. And then, of course, we've got Doctor Strange. This is an awesome book. The Oath. This one is a powerful one. I don't have a lot of Doctor Strange in my library, but this one is one that I had to get because it's such a great read. I implore you, check these things out, because they are absolutely amazing. And this is just kind of like the starter. This is the basis. Excuse me for just a second. This is just a great way to kind of get familiar with these concepts by having these characters that we know and we love have a sort of reference point. Kind of sets the tone and allows us to kind of create things that might be similar, not exact copies, but similar to some of the things that already exist. It kind of helps us kind of get into what we're going to create. So I have a number of different superpowers that are some of my favorites. And I'm just going to run them through real quick, and they're on the worksheet. So these are ones that, if you have any questions, this is kind of where it kind of fits into the play of things. So we've got super strength, which is a matter of how strong you are. Super speed, which is how fast you can move. Then we have endurance, which is how long you can do something without getting hurt or tired. So that's a big range of things, right? Then we have energy projection, which is control of an elemental force, something like fire, water, gravity, magnetism, anything like that is energy projection. And then we have flight, which is the ability to fly. Then psionics, which are powers of the mind. It splits into two categories. The first is telepathy, which is mental communication. If I can speak with my mind, communicate with my mind, sometimes clairvoyance, seeing the future. Or there's telekinesis, when I can move things with my mind, right? So that's psionics. That's what that all means. And then there's teleportation, which is instantaneous transfer of matter from one spot to the other. And it's one of the few superpowers that I actually have. If you guys want, I'm going to show you. This is one of my favorite tricks of all time. This is an example, a presentation, an explanation of teleportation. All right, so here we go. If everybody does this with me, you get one finger up, the other finger up, and you go 1, 2, boom, teleportation. Immediate transfer of matter from one spot to the other. So we move one finger to the other hand, boom, there it is. Just that quick, we put it back. Teleportation. So if anybody wants to know what that is, that's how you show them. That's how you teach them the power, the magic of teleportation. Now, if you have the worksheet, there is a QR code that you can scan, and it's going to actually take you to a power scale index. And we're not going to deal with that just yet. We're going to actually jump into selecting some ideas about our characters that we're going to create. So let's jump into that right here. So we need this page of the worksheet. Make sure you guys can see that. And again, I'm going to work digitally. You guys are more than welcome to work traditionally. And what that means is I'm going to use a computer, which doesn't create like an original piece. But if you print yours out and you work traditionally, that's, pencil to paper, you actually have a piece that is unique, original, and very, very special. I can just make a lot of copies, but you have something that no one else will have, which will be awesome. So the first thing we're going to decide is our character path, good guy or bad guy. Now, let's be fair. There is a thing called an anti-hero. We got characters that want to do good things, but maybe they go about it in the worst way possible. That does happen, right? But they're still kind of good guys. That's kind of how we look at it. I actually think that it exists on a scale. So on the nicest end of the spectrum, we have a character like Daredevil. Matt Murdock knows, he's a lawyer, and he knows that by fighting crime the way that he does, he's technically breaking the law. Just because you see a crime happening doesn't mean that you have the right to physically assault anyone to stop it. That's not really the legal way that things should happen. You're always supposed to, find a figure of authority that is supposed to be allowed to do this. That's not exactly what Daredevil does. But he is nice enough to represent the criminals that he fights, sometimes pro bono, to kind of get a lesser sentence if he understands, like, hey, this is the reason why they did this, blah, 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 blah. So he's kind of on the nice end of the spectrum. On the heavy, dark end of the spectrum, you can have a character like Thanos. So as we saw in the movie, Thanos actually was attempting to save the universe in just the darkest way possible by destroying or eliminating half of the people or the population of said universe. His goal was, in fact, to make it better, to extend the use of resources for the remaining, populace, the remaining half. He just, didn't count on the awesomeness of the Avengers to fight him, turn it around, and say, no, we're not having it that way. So if you have a character that exists on that spectrum, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And there's a lot of characters that exist within that spectrum. So obviously from Daredevil to Thanos, you're talking characters like Wolverine, Batman, Deadpool, Jason Todd, the Red Hood, lots and lots of people, even Magneto, Namor the Submariner, all these different people that can sometimes seem like they flip-flop in terms of whether or not they're going to be a good guy or bad guy can certainly play into that anti-hero role. So depending on what it is that you want to actually select, what you have the opportunity to do is to choose exactly what kind of character you're going to have. So you can choose to have a good guy. So if you want a good guy, under this piece here, you can circle that in, fill that in, boop, 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 boop. Got it for a good guy. If you want a bad guy, circle that. If you want to create an anti-hero, fill in both. Fill in both circles, let it be known. This person has some influx, right? Deathstroke the Terminator, definitely an anti-hero. Got a new movie coming out. Can't wait to check that one out. That looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So once you decide that, The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to decide what your character's superpower is. Now, it could be more than one. That is important to know. You're not limited to any particular superhero power because this is your creation. You create it. That's the whole point. And we want you to be as creative as possible. So figure out what sort of cool superpowers you'd like your character to have. It could be one of the 7 that we talked about before, but it doesn't have to be. If you want to have something totally unique, something totally original, by all means, do that. Now, I am going to poke a little fun because that's what I do. It's my thing. It's my jam. It's my jazz. It's what I do. Make sure it's a cool superpower. It's one of the things that most people are going to know your character for first and foremost, maybe even before they even know their name. So what you don't want is to have a weird, bad superpower like, say, Wolverine, who literally has the power to get beat up. Think about it. Yes, he's got the mutant healing factor, but in order to use it, he has to get hurt first. That kind of stinks. I personally don't like getting hurt. Not my thing. But there are people that really like him. It's cool. Maybe for me, it's because I'm from Ohio and we kind of have a sports rivalry. So anybody named Wolverine, we don't necessarily love. Sorry, it's true. I'll admit it. OHIO. That's all I'm saying. I'm just throwing it out there. Obviously, Superman created from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm just throwing it out there. That's a thing. Wait, somebody said go blue. Oh, okay. I see how it is. I got you. That's all good though. All's fun in comics. So have a cool superpower. It can be, something very simple. It can be something that you make up. It can even be an umbrella power, right? So what's an umbrella power? Well, like Spider-Man. So with Peter Parker, he's got, the powers of a spider. But what does that mean, right? He's super strong. He's agile. He walks on walls, takes great pictures. That's the powers of a spider. You didn't know spiders were great photographers, did you? They absolutely are. That's why Peter's so good at it. So you can do something like that. You can take a concept and design exactly what it is that it means. You can kind of fill in the blanks and make that work however you want to. This is your character, remember? And you be as creative as possible. That's the key. So the next thing that we're going to decide is your method of acquisition. How did your character get their powers? Is it through science, biology, industry, mythology, or magic? Or is it a combination of any of those features? Yeah, that's right. You can actually switch that up and add some of the features together. That can totally happen. It happens to some of the best characters, Wolverine included. The adamantium skeleton that he has, that's not a mutation. That's actually an act of a science experiment that was done to him. One of those things that he clearly uses all the time, one of his best known features, but is not a part of the mutation factor of his character. So that's something you can play with. We talked about Shazam. Totally another character that kind of rides the line between magic, because he changes with the use of a magic word, and mythological, because he invokes the powers of the gods. I would say the same thing about Wonder Woman. Clearly, she has aspects of powers of the gods, but her lasso is a magic lasso. In its very name, it's magic. So you can't deny that. So you get to decide, in what ways did your character get their powers? Figure it out. Figure out exactly what it is. You're starting to build story, which is a very important part in creating a comic character. Having a cool character is great, but having stories to tell about that character, that's the key. So as you're starting to do this, you can start to think in terms of their origin. What is some of the things that actually happened to them that put them on the path of getting this power? Method of acquisition is how they got the power, but the origin is why they're using it in the ways that they are as a hero or villain. So keep that in mind. Was it an experiment? Was it an accident? Are they a mutant? Are they an alien? Maybe they're an invading force. Maybe they're not necessarily good folks. Who knows? Lots of things for you to play with. So I want to see exactly what you guys are coming up with in order to create this character. Moving on. Oh, and also there's a very strong point here. If a word is unfamiliar, definitely use a dictionary to look it up. I want you guys to be empowered to learn from this experience. If you don't know something, feel free to look it up and check and see, educate yourself on exactly what it means. One of the most important things is learning how to discover information. If you always have to ask for it, you'll never be as powerful as if you can just find it for yourself. So that's just a little tidbit, little PSA, the more you know kind of thing. Okay, so moving into the power scale. Now, this is where you only get a certain amount of points. Now, on this worksheet, we say 15 flat out across the board. For the workbook, we have a little bit more space. We're a little bit kinder, and we expand it. So because I'm doing this presentation, I'll expand it here. You heard it here, folks. This is, or first, folks, this is what it is. So if you're creating a good guy, a protagonist, you get 15 total points that you can use. If you're creating a bad guy, you get 20 points that you can use in total. If you're creating an anti-hero, still technically a hero, so let's go on the shallow side of only 15. Now, what does that mean? every superpower that we have listed here is an augmentable source. It is a way of saying that your character has a version of this ability, whether it's listed in your superpowers or not. And this is an attribute that you're giving to your character. The numbers equate to the scale of power that you are giving them. If you add up the total amount of all the things that you're putting together, if you're creating a good guy, it cannot be more than 15. If you're creating a bad guy, it cannot be more than 20. Now, it's very simple as to why we do this. An all-powerful character is often considered a boring character. A lot of times we have characters that are souped up, OP. We get that all the time, right? And people have problems with relating to those characters. They can't find them as interesting as those characters that have some struggles. So we want to create something that is very relatable. We all have things that we're good at, and we have things that we're not so good at. So have that, reflect in the characters that you create, and it allows for more people to enjoy it. Now, yes, there are some characters that do seem to be OP. Superman is definitely one of them, but Superman didn't start out that way. He actually started off with a very limited select, series of powers. In fact, flying wasn't even one of them. Remember the statement, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound? It's because he couldn't fly. That didn't happen until later. So lots of cool things can happen over time. You can always build up. But to start, let's make the character rather relatable and very accessible for other people to follow along with. That's kind of important, and I want to see you guys do that. So I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to kind of figure out what levels of power you think you want to have. And I'm really curious as to what you guys think is the most important superpower to have. Is it strength, speed, endurance, energy projection, flight, psionics, or teleportation? What is your top-notch superpower? Sound out. I want to hear it. I want to see what you guys think is the best one to have. What do you got? Give you guys just a couple more minutes. Very, very cool. Very cool. As you guys are doing that, I'm going to switch over to the next piece here. Get ready for the next portion of this here challenge, which is going to be designing your character. So if you've printed out the page, we have the front page, which looks like this. It's pretty much blank. It has a little space here for you to fill in a little bit of information. And we're going to do that first and foremost. We're going to see if you can come up with a cool superhero name. Wolverine isn't one of them. Okay, not that it's not one of them, but if you use Wolverine, you could probably get in trouble with Marvel. So don't do that. You don't want it to be the name of a character that's already existing and very, very popular. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a cool superhero name. What's a cool, iteration, version, power, something that kind of really excites what you think a superhero or villain should be. Let's see what you guys come up with, because I think that's something that's going to be really cool to really build off of. It's going to be the basis for a lot of ideas. It could be color scheme, design, all kinds of different things that really kind of invoke what your character can do. So let's come up with a good superhero name. I'm going to come up with the incredible, no, I can't use that. The Blue Beat, no. Well, let's see. You know what? I'm going to be the guy that steps outside of what I just said, and I'm just going to try to create something and see if that doesn't inspire the name. Trust. Sometimes that does happen. Sometimes you just got to get the pencil moving, and then the more concrete ideas form around that. So let's see what we've got. Let's see. I've got my pencil set. Hopefully you've got your pencil set, and I'm just going to start drawing. Now, I always offer a challenge. If you identify as male, create a character that is female. If you identify as female, create a character that's male. I offer the challenge of creating a character that doesn't look anything like you in order to get you out of your comfort zone and to get you to try to illustrate and create something that's different and unique and forces you to kind of not be so into the things that you know. I want you to step outside of that and actually kind of explore. Let's see some different cool ideas. So with that being said, I'm going to create a female character and see what we can do. So my first idea here is to think of her body type. I think there are 3 body types that you can kind of pull from: slim, athletic, and heavy. Of course, the thing to realize and remember is the body type doesn't dictate what your character can physically do. There's lots of characters that look one particular way, but don't operate with that same sort of limitation. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, has always been drawn as a very scrawny, though muscular character. But he's kind of like, I don't know, super strong, really. Like, I mean, he's one of those guys that has huge muscles. One of the strongest guys in the entire, Marvel universe. Has even fought the Hulk and won. And speaking of the Hulk, he's a very large character, but he's not slow. And when Bruce Banner and he are kind of working out, they're really smart. So lots of things that people would presume are limitations or stereotypes, we can get away from and not use those at all. So I think that's going to be something really, really cool for us to play with. Let's see. We got an offer. Oh yeah, we got to do that. Okay, so we got some Wizard World exclusive comic books, and if you guys are interested in getting any of those prizes, I want you to email mikeg@wizardworld.com. We're definitely want to do that. You know what? I think I might add some of my books to the mix here, and we might actually add in a couple more You Create things before it's all said and done. So we might have some cool stuff that we're going to do with that. So let's see. We're going to create a character here, and I'm going to get started. So I like to use big broad strokes. I'm a guy that I typically write. I'm a writer, not necessarily an artist, though I can draw, but it's not my favorite thing in the world to do. But it helps me tell stories better. It helps me communicate with the artists that I work with really well. And it creates a cool sort of sensibility that I understand exactly what they have to do. And it makes it that much easier for me to work with them. So I do like to draw sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes. And I'm going to use my skills as an artist today and see if that helps. So let's see what we got. Now, one of the cool things about working digitally is it allows for me to basically not make any mistakes. I mean, I can still make mistakes, but they're not real mistakes because I can just hit undo and it's totally undone, which is kind of amazing. One of the big things that why people like using digital materials. But if you are working by hand on traditional stuff, the trick is to take your time. There's no rush. Obviously, we've got a little bit of a time crunch here, but there's no rush for you. This is your creation, and however long it takes for you to get it right, that's how long it takes. There's nothing that says that you have to do it right now, today, tomorrow. You just take your time and figure out exactly what you want this to look like so that it is the best creation that you can make, because that's the most important thing. You have to be satisfied and happy with it, and that's so important. Now, one of the things that I do love to showcase is this very simple concept of the stick figure. A lot of people say that that's the only thing that they know how to draw. I've heard it a bajillion times, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. We're going to turn this into an impromptu drawing session as well. So if you can draw a stick figure, you can draw just about anything. It's all about learning where the lines go and building up from there. So in this regard, what I'm going to show you guys is a simple concept or solution to your stick figures. So if you've drawn a stick figure first, and that's okay if you have, that's a good way to start. The trick to make it a more successful stick figure is how many lines you use. Most people, when they do a stick figure, they're only using 5 to 6 lines. If you count it out, the circle as 1, then you do a line for the body, maybe some hands, some arms, the legs to feet. That's really like 5 or 6 lines, not that many. The trick is to actually add in, let's see if you guys can see that, 2 horizontal lines, one for the shoulders and one for the hips. By doing that, you actually make a more 3-dimensionally sound stick figure, and you can build off of that. Once you do the stick figure, by adding in shapes, simple shapes, you can actually make a better figure. Like, it's just really how drawing works. It helps you identify exactly where things go and makes it so much easier for you to actually draw things all on your own. So by adding just a couple more shapes in here, I'm going to show you in just a second how what I had as a stick figure actually advances pretty quickly to being a regular person. So we're just going to do a couple of triangular shapes because, again, I'm drawing a lady, and I think triangles actually represent femininity really well, very feminine shapes. If you're drawing a guy, you could use squares, which I think are very masculine shapes, and it kind of works out pretty well. So this is just my sketch. You can see how we're already starting to build form. We've got, the hips here, we've got shoulders, head, the whole nine, and we're going to start with that. As I'm doing this, I'm starting to get ideas for the character. So I think her superpower is going to be the ability to fly. And I think that's a cool place to start. So knowing that she's got the ability to fly, what are some of the things that we need to have? I think if you're a fan of The Incredibles, you might say capes or no capes. Totally depends on how you want to look at it. I kind of like a cape. I think it's kind of cool. Although there are lots of characters that do have capes, so maybe we can figure out a way to do a cape that is a little bit more unique for what our character is going to be. So I think I'm going to use Spider-Man as kind of my inspiration and kind of do like the web sort of cape sort of thing. So it's not, a super long flowing cape, but it's an iteration of one. So that's what we'll do here. I'm just kind of outlining now. I've switched over to a marker piece so I can do a quick outline, establish some more of the muscles, some of those shapes, and really build this character out. Now, so this character is kind of one that I had years and years ago, and I never really did anything with her. She was actually a partner to another character, all in representation of my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. We have a major intersection called Broad and High, and I always thought that was a cool super duo that I'm going to play with here. So High is the lady here, and she has the ability to fly. Her partner Broad is a big, strong, super muscular guy, and he's just like a really huge, muscular, muscle-bound man. So let's see. We've got her hands on her hips a little bit, kind of in that cool superheroic pose. Did you know that psychologically that actually makes you feel better? If you were feeling down, if you're feeling like you can't do something, stand in what's called the Superman pose, like this, for just like 10 seconds. And it automatically makes you feel better. How cool is that, right? Like art imitating life, life imitating art, makes you feel better. It's all around awesome. Here we go. Boom. I'll make sure I don't cover up where I'm supposed to write my name. That's a little hard not to do. Let's see. Put in the lines for the eyes, nose, and mouth so I know where those go. Okay. Okay. So this is the outline that I'm working with right now. So as you can see, I kind of, dropped the opacity on the skeleton underneath so I could draw this part of it. And it was pretty simple to, kind of use that as the outline, draw around it. So now I'm going to add in some features like some hair and a costume and see how we can continue bringing her to life. Let's see. What do you think? Long hair, short hair. Long hair, short hair. She's a flyer. Maybe it looks cool as it's long and flowing. I can get with that. Let's do long hair. And again, take your time. There's no rush. There is no wrong here. This is something that, depending on your skill level, maybe it's just something that you will just have to work on to get closer to what it is that you have in your head. That's a huge thing for artists, building that confidence to know that it's okay if you mess up. You can always keep going. You can always try again. There's nothing wrong with that. You should always keep trying to refine your skill set and develop yourself even further. So there's nothing wrong with getting something wrong initially, as long as you keep going and learn from what you've done. This is always a wonderful process. It can be very therapeutic if you take your time, enjoy yourself, kind of breathe in, breathe out as you're doing the artwork. It's very, very cool. Let's see. So I want to kind of incorporate the letter H into her costume. So thinking about how that looks, we've got, two verticals, a horizontal. Let's see how we can make that kind of play into something graphic and cool. Don't always just want to draw the letter H, although certain superheroes like letters and it does look amazing. Doesn't always work like that for all heroes. If there is a version of an H on a chest that I think looks really cool, look no further than the indie darling Hotshot from Freestyle Comics. Is a great book, awesome series. Okay, yes, I used to write it, but I don't anymore, and I still love it. So definitely check that out from Freestyle Comics. That's Freestyle Comics with a K. Definitely check that out. Shout out to Mike Watson, is the creator of that book, and an awesome creator. Also local, so a lot of ticks there. So let's see. We're gonna do here. Create that, and then gonna go down here. Very cool. All right, so for this one, I'm giving her somewhat of a midriff. which is kind of funny. This means that she can only fight crime in Ohio in the spring and summer because our winters get kind of cold and the midriff really wouldn't work. But I like the idea that it kind of creates the bar for the H, and the continuing of the lines down the legs are the continuation of the vertical lines for the H. So I kind of like that idea. Let's see. We're going to do the web-based wings here so she can fly. Now, if this was the 1990s, I would give her pockets, lots and lots of pockets, maybe some guns, some pouches. We had a lot of interesting things that we did in the 90s in terms of our designs. Not always the greatest, but they were ours. And, you know, there's a lot of people that made huge careers off of that. So we can't really knock it too bad. But let's see. Don't want to take up too much more time with this on my end, but I hope you guys are having a lot of fun doing it, because that is the most important part, is having fun with your art. The things that you create is so very important that you enjoy it, because we want you to create them or create with them for as long as possible. So we're going to start adding some colors in here. And I think, let's see, I mean, considering that I'm in Ohio, scarlet and gray kind of calls to me. I don't know why. Something about it just seems right. For whoever said go blue, I see you. I got you. Let's see. We're going to add in some colors here. So let's see. Little paint action. And we'll do real simple designs here. Nothing super complicated, just to kind of get the idea out. Just because, you know, this is one of those things where, again, this is going to take time. You know, you're going to trial and error, play with it. This is just my first, you know, attempt at this character after so long. I don't even know if I drew her initially. So this is a brand new take on her, and we'll see how well this turns out, if this is something that I really, really like and want to continue with. And again, as an initial sketch of sorts, it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. This is just kind of getting your ideas out here and seeing exactly where you want to start with this character, not where they ultimately have to end up. Be free with your creation. It's so important that you enjoy it and have a lot of fun. So let's see, I'm not going to spend too much time on this part here. Let's see, got the gray, like the gray. That's really cool. This is awesome. Might have to sell this one to the Ohio State University. Go Bucks. I think they might like this character a lot. We'll have to see. Let's add in some red here. Oh, look at that. So perfect. Let's see. We're adding this in. Drawn. And awesome. I like it. I like it. Here we go. Boom. Awesome. I'm going to show you guys in just a second. Again, very simple design for a very fun character. Really like where this is going. And I'm already starting to think of some cool stories that I definitely will want to share with you guys. Now, one of the fun things here, again, trying to create characters that are full and real, what you pick as inspiration. So in terms of the ethnicity of this character, I think I'm going to make her African American. Today is a very special day in Black history. It's called Juneteenth, and it denotes the finalization of many slaves finding out that the Emancipation Proclamation was actually completed and signed more than about 2.5 years prior to that. So even though the Civil War ended in 1963, there were many, or the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1963. There were many slaves that didn't hear about having their freedom. And so with this celebration, it actually is a very amazing thing to note that, you know, there was that lag in people finding out about you know, the freedoms that have been given to them. And we commemorate this day. It's very, very important to, you know, Black history. And I think it's an awesome thing to kind of showcase, you know, characters like this, to show that anyone, everyone can in fact be a superhero. It's very important for us to recognize that, to celebrate that, and to offer that in every way, shape, and form. So I'm going to kind of do some cool hair here. And I'm going to show you in just a second what I've got. Let's see. Add that in here. Nice. Do. All right. So as a start off sketch, this is where I'm starting off. I actually got to add in the color for her wingspan here. Let's do that real quick. And you guys can see how it's a slightly different color. There we go. So yeah, slightly different color to the rest of her costume, but it's the basis that she'll have. As I continue, I'll draw a little bit more detail, add into her eye color, things like that, and just kind of build out what I think this character should be. So this is kind of where I'm going to stop now, but I implore for you guys to continue. And if you get a chance, I definitely hope that you visit us online at ucreatecomics.com. That's the letter U, C-R-E, the number 8, and comics.com, where you can check out some of the many things that we're offering. We do in-school projects. That's something that obviously with the COVID-19 situation that we had to kind of fall back on, but we have a lot of create-it-yourself products that you guys can check out, from things like the idea cards, which is a series of 27 cards with writing prompts on the backs of them. And you can tell different original stories by using these prompts. We have idea books, where if you have a burst of inspiration and you don't want to lose it, you can jot down these quick ideas and save them so that you can get into telling your own stories. Everything functions in a build up a story sort of fashion. So once you have your ideas, we get you into writing your ideas. We use both the words to pictures book, which actually allows for you to lay out your stories so that way you can tell stories both in prose and then translate them into comics, and then get ready to write scripts featuring your comic story. So we use the Write book in order to actually write comic book script style as opposed to plot style to help you tell cool stories. Once you're ready with that, if you want to get into building your characters, again, you can use the You Create Comics Character Crafter Workbook. We have different iterations. This one is the grades 3 and up version. We do have one that is designed for grades K through 2. That's a little bit easier for kids to follow. It's not necessarily as extensive in terms of the power breakdowns, but you look at things as internal or external powers or inside or outside powers, and still allows them to create as freely as possible. And then last but not least, we get into the drawing category. And this is a product that we have called the Mighty Mags, which is a blank comic that allows for you to draw and tell an original story in comic book form, which is pretty awesome. But we have our own brand of Bristol board, which is large sheets of comic book paper that professionals use. We have large sheets that we offer. We also have comic book kits. So we've got our Ready, Set, Create kit, as well as our You Create Comics School workbook that actually teaches you how to make comics from start to finish. We talk about the history of comics, writing comics, drawing lessons, all kinds of fun stuff, just things to have fun. And also in ways to have fun, we have our word count card pack, which is a series of cards that is based off of the game War. And instead of saying I declare war, what we are doing is teaching you how to use your words, literally with onomatopoeia phrases, wham, we've got arg, all these cool phrases that are so very typical of comics. And the goal here is the one with the highest word count wins. So as all things, we're trying to keep things educational. We're trying to keep things fun. We want to keep you encouraged. We want to empower learning for students by bringing these types of products into the classrooms to keep them engaged and learning in ways that they never thought possible. Thank you guys for tuning in. This was absolutely fantastic. I want to give another shout out to Wizard World. Thank you guys for hosting this whole presentation. This was wonderful. Once again, I'm Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics, saying thank you and peace out. You guys were awesome.
Let's hear for Victor, everybody. We're happy to have you, buddy. Hey, Victor, quick shout out to anyone who's watching now or later on. We will keep this open throughout the weekend. You can obviously watch this whenever. If you send your photos of your characters or even just your character worksheet using the You Create packet that we provided in the comments, send them to social@wizardworld.com. Again, that's SOCIAL at wizardworld.com. We will pick our favorites or just a random person, and we will send you a prize pack of Wizard World exclusive comic books. And maybe some cool You Create stuff. All of the links are in the comments there. You Create with the number 8, comics.com. So again, on behalf of Wizard World, thank you, Victor, for joining us.
Thank you. My
and
pleasure,
check out
guys.
Victor. He is not only going to be hosting more of these classes here on Wizard World Virtual, but he'll be moderating some panels. He'll be with us for next week and an amazing panel called Black Voices in Pop Culture. So keep following us on the internet's social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Wizard World for all of that. And follow Victor at You Create Comics and Vantage In-House Productions. Thanks, Victor.
See you guys.